Imagine a world holding its breath, a world teetering on the precipice of all-out war. Rome and Persia, two colossal empires, each a superpower in its own right, stood as the dominant forces of their age, their armies poised, ready to unleash devastation. The year was 332 AD. Swords sharpened to a razor's edge, shields gleaming under the harsh sun, reflecting the light of impending conflict. The air was thick with tension, a palpable sense of dread hanging over the land. One spark, one wrong move could ignite a war that would reshape the very foundations of the world as they knew it, altering the course of history forever. This wasn't just another border skirmish, a mere clash between outposts. It was a potential clash of titans, a cataclysmic confrontation that threatened to engulf the entire region. It was a conflict threatening millions of lives, the destruction of entire cities, and the unraveling of civilizations. For decades, Rome and Persia had circled each other warily, sometimes clashing in brutal, bloody conflicts, and sometimes holding an uneasy truce, a fragile peace built on mutual respect and fear. Now the stakes were higher than ever, the tension more unbearable. New leaders with their own visions and ambitions, old grudges simmering beneath the surface for generations, and rising ambitions, a hunger for power and territory, pushed both empires to the very edge of the abyss. The fate of civilizations, the destiny of empires, hung precariously in the balance. Would it be war, a descent into chaos and destruction, or could another path be found, a road to peace and prosperity? Yet, against all odds, the cataclysmic war everyone feared, the devastating conflict that seemed inevitable, never came to pass. At the last moment, when the world held its breath, a different choice was made. Pens, not swords, became the weapons of choice. Words, carefully chosen and thoughtfully delivered, replaced the deafening roar of battle cries. Two powerful rulers, driven by wisdom and foresight, chose to talk, to negotiate, not to fight, averting disaster and ushering in an era of unprecedented cooperation. This decision reshaped their relationship for centuries, laying the groundwork for a lasting peace. This was a testament to the power of diplomacy, a shining example of what can be achieved through dialogue and understanding, a true game-changer, a pivotal moment in history. The story of 332 AD is about this monumental choice, this courageous decision that defied expectations. Leaders who, faced with the allure of war and the promise of conquest, opted for the harder, more challenging path of peace, a path fraught with obstacles and uncertainties. Even in the most fraught circumstances, when tensions were at their highest and the threat of war loomed large, dialogue triumphed over destruction. Reason prevailed over rage. This treaty, often overlooked in the grand sweep of history, proved that even the fiercest adversaries, those locked in bitter and seemingly endless conflict, could build bridges of understanding, not burn them in the fires of war, paving the way for a brighter future. The Roman Empire in the early 4th century was a sprawling behemoth, a testament to centuries of conquest and assimilation. Its reach extended across vast continents, encompassing diverse cultures and peoples under a single banner. Its legions were legendary, the backbone of Roman power, their discipline and skill unmatched in the ancient world. They were the shield against external threats and the sword that enforced Roman law. Its intricate network of roads and sophisticated legal system shaped the Mediterranean world, fostering trade, communication, and a shared sense of Roman identity. These innovations were the arteries and sinews of the empire. But Rome was changing, facing internal and external pressures that threatened its long-held dominance. Its vast size, while a source of strength, also made governance a significant challenge. Maintaining control over such a diverse and far-reaching empire required constant vigilance and a complex administrative apparatus, and recent political crises, marked by ambition and betrayal, had nearly torn it apart, leaving deep scars on the Roman psyche. The stability of the empire hung precariously in the balance. Emperor Constantine the Great now ruled, a figure of immense power and influence. A unifier, determined to heal the divisions that plagued the empire. A reformer, seeking to modernize and streamline the Roman state, and a visionary, with a bold new vision for the future of Rome. He'd fought brutal civil wars to reunite the empire, demonstrating his military prowess and unwavering resolve, bringing stability after decades of chaos and ushering in an era of relative peace and prosperity. Constantine shifted Rome's center eastward, recognizing the growing strategic and economic importance of the East, founding Constantinople, a new Rome on the shores of the Bosphorus. and acknowledging the growing importance of the eastern provinces, which had become vital to the empire's wealth and military strength. The empire faced economic pressures, a persistent drain on its resources. Military spending strained the treasury, demanding a significant portion of the empire's wealth. Inflation persisted, eroding the purchasing power of the currency and creating economic uncertainty, and agriculture struggled, impacting food supplies and the livelihoods of countless citizens. Socially, Christianity was rising, a new force in the empire. Embraced by Constantine, who saw its potential to unite and strengthen the empire, it would redefine Roman identity and its relations with neighbors like Persia, influencing diplomacy and shaping the geopolitical landscape. Despite these changes, Rome remained a formidable military power, a force to be reckoned with. Its armies disciplined and its administration sophisticated, capable of projecting power across vast distances. But defending long borders, especially against Persia, stretched its resources thin, requiring a constant commitment of manpower and supplies. A major conflict in the east would demand enormous commitment, potentially diverting resources from other critical areas, risking instability elsewhere and potentially weakening the empire's overall defenses. Constantine knew that war with Persia could threaten everything he'd worked to rebuild, jeopardizing the fragile peace and prosperity he had established. The stakes for Rome were immense. The decisions made in these pivotal moments would determine the fate of the empire for generations to come. To Rome's east stood the Sassanid Empire, Persia reborn, ambitious and proud. The Sassanids, heirs to the ancient Achaemenids, built a centralized state with a formidable military and a vibrant culture. Zoroastrianism was the state religion, adding a spiritual dimension to their rivalry with Rome. Their cavalry and siege warfare were legendary, making them a power Rome could not ignore. By 332 AD, King Shapur II, young but assertive, ruled Persia. He was determined to reclaim lands like Mesopotamia and Armenia. The Sassanid state was organized, its economy robust, and its bureaucracy capable of mobilizing for war. Persia controlled lucrative trade routes, including parts of the Silk Road. Shapur faced internal and external pressures, but his reign marked a period of consolidation and growing confidence. Persia was resurgent, ready to challenge Rome and assert its claims. The Roman-Sassanid border wasn't just a line on a map. It was a volatile frontier, a line drawn in sand and blood. Fluid, contested, and always tense, a region where skirmishes and diplomatic standoffs were commonplace. Control over fortress cities, strategic strongholds that commanded vital routes, trade routes, the lifeblood of empires, and buffer states like Armenia, caught between two giants, was a constant source of friction and intrigue. In the early 4th century, tensions peaked, reaching a boiling point that threatened to erupt into open war. Both Constantine, the Roman emperor, and Shapur II, the Sassanid king, were ambitious rulers, eager to assert dominance and expand their influence. For Rome, the East was vital for grain, trade, a source of immense wealth and prestige. For Persia, it was about reclaiming ancestral lands, restoring past glories, and securing its borders. The memory of past wars, of hard-fought battles and bitter defeats, fueled suspicion and mistrust. Each side saw the other not just as a rival, but as an existential threat to their power and way of life. Armenia, a Christian kingdom nestled between the two empires, further complicated matters. Rome saw itself as its protector, a shield against Persian aggression. Persia saw a threat to its flank, a potential Roman foothold, and a challenge to its religious unity. The religious divide, Christianity versus Zoroastrianism, added fuel to the geopolitical fire, intensifying the already volatile situation. The risk of all-out war was immense, vast armies clashing on the battlefield, devastated cities left in ruins, ruined trade and crippling economic strain on both sides. Both empires possessed formidable military power and could inflict enormous damage on each other. But a prolonged conflict, a war of attrition, could cripple them both, leaving them vulnerable to other threats. The stakes were high, the potential consequences dire, and war, with all its horrors, seemed more likely than a lasting peace. Yet, despite the looming threat, both sides understood the immense cost of a full-scale war. The world watched with bated breath, waiting for the storm to break, for the inevitable clash of empires. But in the midst of this tense standoff, something unexpected, something that would alter the course of history, happened. Emperor Constantine the Great was a soldier, statesman, and religious revolutionary. Rising from humble origins, he unified the Roman Empire after brutal civil wars. His reign marked a turning point, reforms, stability, and the founding of Constantinople. Constantine's Edict of Milan granted religious tolerance to Christians, transforming the empire's spiritual landscape. He was pragmatic, reforming the army, stabilizing currency, and building a new capital. By 332 AD, Constantine was at his peak, focused on securing the empire's frontiers, especially against Persia. He knew the devastation of war and was wary of another costly conflict. While always prepared for battle, he valued diplomacy if it could secure Roman interests. Constantine saw himself as a unifier and stabilizer, not just a conqueror. Peace with Persia would let him focus on internal reforms and his Christian vision. His leadership opened the door to negotiation. Shapur II, the Sassanid king of kings, was Constantine's equal in ambition and resolve. Crowned as a child, he overcame early challenges and proved a capable, ruthless ruler. Shapur secured Persia's borders, crushed threats, and expanded his authority. A devout Zoroastrian, he saw defending his faith as a royal duty, sometimes persecuting Christians suspected of Roman ties. By 332 AD, Shapur was young but experienced, determined to reclaim lands like Armenia and Mesopotamia. He was a skilled strategist but also a pragmatist, aware of the risks and costs of all-out war with Rome. Diplomacy, if it served Persia's interests, was a calculated choice. Shapur weighed the benefits of peace against the uncertainties of war. The road to the 332 AD treaty was a tense dance of diplomacy, shadowed by military might and deep suspicion. Both Constantine and Shapur were proud rulers, reluctant to concede, but the threat of catastrophic war forced their hands. Envoys shuttled between courts, proposals and counter-proposals exchanged, every word scrutinized. Negotiations focused on Armenia, border demarcation, trade and minority rights, complex issues with no easy answers. Choosing diplomacy over war was a moment of true statesmanship. Constantine deferred dreams of conquest. Shapur paused his territorial ambitions. Both leaders looked beyond immediate glory to long-term stability. The treaty was a pragmatic compromise born of mutual recognition of strength and the dangers of mutual destruction. For Constantine, peace secured his eastern flank. For Shapur, it bought time to consolidate power. That they reached agreement at all was a remarkable achievement. The world exhaled. The 332 AD treaty established pillars for peace between Rome and Persia. First, it formalized a real period of non-aggression, not just a ceasefire, allowing both empires to redirect resources away from war. Second, it clarified borders, especially in Mesopotamia and Armenia, reducing the risk of future conflict. Stable frontiers meant fewer flashpoints. Third, the treaty encouraged trade, securing routes like the Silk Road, benefiting both economies. Economic interdependence gave both sides a stake in peace. Diplomatic protocols were set embassies, treatment of envoys and rules for refugees. Clear rules of engagement helped prevent minor incidents from escalating. The accord replaced chaos with order, laying a foundation for stable coexistence. The 332 AD treaty's choice of diplomacy over war had lasting impact. For Rome, peace in the East let Constantine focus on reforms, build Constantinople, and integrate Christianity. The empire gained breathing space, extending its longevity in the East. For Persia, Shapur used the peace to strengthen his rule, economy, and address other threats. The treaty gave both empires time to grow before future conflicts. More broadly, it proved entrenched rivalries could be managed through negotiation. Peace, even temporary, was possible, and beneficial. The treaty fostered trade, limited cultural exchange, and set a precedent for future diplomacy. It was a game-changer, averting disaster and reshaping Roman-Persian relations. And it leaves us with a question: what if diplomacy had failed? How different might our world be?